It is 9 o'clock, July 24th. We call the Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, welcome, everybody. It's nice to see a crowd. I don't know what Charlie did this time to have all of you here, but no matter what, thanks anyway. County Board minutes from July 17th.
Mr. Chair, I will move approval of the minutes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Hewson, second by Commissioner Vetch. Any other discussions?
Mr. Chair, just one correction on the first part. The county board minutes that were mentioned in here are actually from 7:10, not 7:17. So just that correction.
On what?
The very first heading, county board minutes, should read 7:10:18, not 7:17. The minutes that were approved at the 7:17.
Okay. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Review and approval of the agenda. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, if there's no additions, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Potter. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Mr. Chair, we broke our streak. We've been adding things for about the last 3 weeks, 3 weeks straight, so.
Consent agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to pull for further removal or further review?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Hewson. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Mr. Bob Hevila,
Hey, good morning.
award-winning auditor treasurer.
Thank you, Board. The populations data is now final. We were not notified of any changes, so what I gave to you in June is final. So, Board, as a reminder that our population for Wright County is set at 134,365 for 17.
You never heard, because I know Otsego was gonna do something regarding their population because they didn't think it was correct, but you never heard back from the demographers?
No.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think it had to do with the multiplier was different in Otsego than St. Michael is what the challenge was, is that they thought it was like 3.4 for everybody else and it was 3.1 for them, something like that. It was something in the multiplier that was a little different there. Wanted an explanation on that.
Yeah, and the only thing I can think of was that they use that multiplier based off the 2010 census.
Yeah.
And it probably doesn't get changed until the next census is my guess.
Right.
But yeah, they were supposed to get clarified and I haven't heard from them at all. All right, any other questions regarding our population? And that's just for information?
Correct.
Item number 2.
Item number 2, Board, remember we have 2 appointees to the Clearwater River Watershed District. One appointee was due this year or being up. Chris Euchre is the only person that we heard back from. So there's 2 actions I want to present to you. One is to appoint Chris Euchre. He's the current incumbent, appoint him to renew his term. But then I also want to propose that we set the cutoff to be August 1st instead of this August 13th. So I'd like you to approve Chris Euchre. He'll fill out the remainder of his term, but his next term would be August 14th of 18 to August 1st of 19, or July 31st, yeah.
So you're setting the new term will be beginning August 1st. Okay, we're not cutting off the application period.
Is that okay with the watershed board then too?
But
So August 1st of 2019.
would be appointing somebody else.
Yep.
Or Chris
Right,
again.
yep.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to appoint Chris Euchre to the Clearwater River Watershed District.
I'll second it.
Can you say that 3 times really fast?
That's why there's a good acronym for it.
But, and Mr. Chair, but for clarification, this is a 2 or 3 year term, correct? So per 3-year
I
term?
thought it was 3 years.
Okay. So when his term actually wouldn't be up in 2019, but in the appropriate year?
Right, in the appropriate year.
The other,
There you go.
yep, okay.
Right. And then that'll be the precedence for setting our other appointee.
Okay.
Motion by Commissioner Betch and a second by Commissioner Brow. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to set the new term from August 1st of 2019 to August, would be 22 to August 1st of or July 31st of 2022
Right.
as the new term.
And Commissioners, the changes, we're going from August 13th to August 1st too.
Okay. So the application period is from August 1st to August 13th, is that what?
No, we'd move the application period into July.
Okay.
So,
So rather than have it in the middle of the month.
right,
move it
trying to
the
remember
first.
August 13th, so.
All right.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Betch, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then, Mr. Chair, Bob, do you need a motion then to, or was that included the deadline of July 20th then for the following years?
Commissioners, I believe what I'd do is bring that to your attention when it's appropriate.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Third item.
Yep.
Board, our audit is complete. We've submitted it to the GFOA. We fully anticipate to get that certificate again. But we now are mapping OpenGov to coincide with the CAFR. Again, it's to also point that out to the public. So what I'd like to do is set up a committee of the whole to present the CAFR, which is our comprehensive financial report. It's our financial statements. In the use of OpenGov to present that. I'd like to set up a committee of the whole to do that for you. This is not in conjunction, but could be similar to the second item, or fourth item, which is setting an exit meeting. Remember Clifton Larson Allen, they're our auditors. They'll present the financial statements and comments to you. And they're proposing August 14th at 11 a.m., if that works.
You want to do both at the same meeting?
No, I talked to Lindsay, we don't know chicken and the egg, whether we present the OpenGov presentation of it or have that.
So you're saying Clifton Larson on August 14th, is what you're saying, or OpenGov on August
The
14th?
day that works best for Clifton is August 14th at 11 a.m.
Okay, so you jumped ahead to item 4, okay.
Right, but they're tying together. And I don't know if we've set that as a budget day or not, so.
14th, no.
You must have talked about that before. I already have it on my calendar, so.
No, August 7th, he had a tentative date with OpenGov, but you haven't heard back from.
I had August 14th written down.
I'm sorry, August 7th was a go, so I didn't
was-
know if I had to bring that back, but
You
August
didn't give
7th.
a time on it, you just have it open-ended on August 7th.
Yeah,
You
I
didn't
had
give
it in there
a
with
time.
a question mark on it, whether it was.
I had a question mark on mine too.
Yep.
That's with OpenGov?
So
Yep.
they're amiable, so what time works best for the board?
August 7th, you guys want to do
Well,
it?
we had 10:30 penciled in, so.
Well, we've got something going on with the buffer though on that day too,
I don't have that on my calendar.
don't we?
No, that's today.
That's today.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So August 7th, you guys want to say,
10:30.
follow the board, 10:30th for the board meeting? Okay. So August 7th,
So I just take my question mark off.
Yep.
August 7th at 10:30, I'll make a motion to set a committee of the whole for the OpenGov.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Betch, second by,
Commissioners, if I can clarify, the August 7th is the meeting with Charlie Francis.
Yep.
He's
Right.
training you on how to use OpenGov.
Yep.
Yep.
That's not the same presentation of the
Right, we just
CAFR.
sort of jumped ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a motion and a second? Okay.
that was for item 3.
That was for
Committee of
item
the
3.
whole presentation of comprehensive annual financial report with OpenGov.
Yep.
No?
Board, I apologize, I too got
Two
off here.
separate
So,
items.
August 7th at 10:30 is
Training only.
training only.
Yep, the
And then you propose a
presentation
date for the comprehensive meeting?
should be number 4.
So August 4th, so we got to, let's do the motion on
We have two
August
different
7th.
motions, yeah.
Yep,
And that's for the training
yep,
only.
training only.
7th.
Mark, did you give Mike the second on that, or?
Yes.
Okay. I started to say it, that's why I was just wondering. Okay.
All right. For August 7th, and any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, so then let's do the August 14th one.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion to schedule the committee of the whole to set the audit exit meeting with Clifton Larson Allen, August 14th at 11 a.m.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Houston, second by Commissioner Burrell. Any other discussions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, so back to item 3. Committee of the whole meeting for presentation of the comprehensive annual financial report with OpenGov.
That's not,
That was already done.
No, it wasn't.
That was August.
That one's not set yet.
okay.
August 7th is strictly for
Strictly the
training.
Okay, so
on the
14th,
OpenGov.
okay.
And Mr. Chair, that was an item on last week's board
But
agenda.
we never-
We talked about the date on 8/7.
Yeah.
However, we did not officially set it until
Okay.
the motion you just did.
Okay, so that's set.
Because we were finalizing information if that date would work.
Okay.
Correct. So the
Okay, so-
item before you still is item number 3.
So we're still doing with item 3, okay.
Correct, yep.
So since they're going to be here, why don't we do it on the 7th also? Does anybody have anything else in the early afternoon on the 7th?
7th? No.
Okay.
I'm fine with that. You just want to
Say
do
one
the training and then have
1
lunch and then
o'clock?
do the 1 o'clock?
I'll make a motion to set that committee of the whole for August 7th at 1 o'clock PM.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That got messy.
I
Yeah.
apologize, Board. And then I'm not sure if everybody in attendance is here for the tree removal, but I'll have Matt come up and talk about removing trees on County Ditch 22.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I am here today to ask you to approve a bid for tree removal services on County Ditch 22. Right now, we're going through the redetermination of benefits process on County Ditch 22. That hearing we scheduled last week for September 11th. So I'm hoping to have that hearing and then shortly thereafter to begin work on the system and
So Matt, to clarify, this won't be done until after the redetermination of benefits?
after.
Okay.
Mhm. So I think it'd be a good topic to broach at the public hearing or the informational meeting with the landowners, so. but-
Okay, for my memory, where's County Ditch 22 again?
South of Montrose, Waverly, in that area. They're real close to ditch 31. They,
They're all kind of in
Yeah.
a loop in that area, so.
And this will remove all the trees?
On each side, 16.5 feet, the buffer area. So it's pretty extensive work. There's a lot of larger cottonwoods and such that have grown up in there just due to lack of maintenance. So hopefully we can go there, remove them, and then we're getting on the spraying program with central applicators, so these kind of issues shouldn't come up. I mean, this is a pretty hefty price tag, but it's kind of the cost to do business.
Yeah, well, like you said, there's,
It didn't seem like a very high estimate per foot, when you're looking at it. but
Yeah, I think it was
340 a foot.
Yeah,
so.
per foot. That's pretty, I was expecting somewhere 4 to 5 range in that area, so I thought that was very good. Yeah, and I just wanted to point out as well that we decided as a staff to start asking for bid bonds for projects like this, kind of make sure you're getting someone that's motivated to do the work, and we asked for 5%. MSB Excavating and Tiling was the only one that provided us with the 5% bid bond.
So you would recommend them going with them then? Or?
I would recommend, yes. Michael already has a plan for what to do with the trees. He will burn some on site. We did put that in there to kind of keep the cost a little bit lower, but he already has a lot of people lined up to take the firewood, which I think is
Great.
Joe.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Jack.
if any of the landowners want the wood on their land, we're allowing them first take on it, correct, or?
We can work that out. I think it's just, since we're doing the tree removal and then in the spring we'll be getting to excavating, it's a pretty short time frame there that we'd want the trees removed. So if they're very motivated and want it, I think we could work with them, but we'd have to do a deadline of when those trees would be removed. So, and that depends on when the tree removal work starts. So,
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the bid of MSB excavating and tiling to clean the trees and get the ditches in shape for ditch 22.
I'll second that.
Again, this is strictly just for tree
Trees,
removal.
the tree removal. Yep.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions? Is there anybody here regarding the tree removals regarding County Ditch 22? Anybody here for that? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
thank you.
Miss Alicia O'Hare.
Let's see.
Is there a plug-in up here? My laptop is running low.
Our architect knows.
Right there. Fantastic. Sorry about that. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. So the first thing on your agenda is the adoption of the North Fork Crow River One Watershed One Plan. You approved that draft at a previous board meeting, and then it was accepted by the Board of Water and Soil Resources on June 27th. So today the next step is just to adopt the plan so that it gets implemented, and that will open up a block funding grant of $640,000, a little over that, for the whole watershed. But so just asking for a motion on that.
Charlie, you've been dealing with this One Watershed, One Plan.
I did talk about this, I think a week ago. I said that it would be coming up. Brian, is Brian here?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you want to come up just for a second, Brian, just to make sure that I want to quiz you, make sure you've approved look through the.
Well, the first, is the first action item, what's the first action item?
Was it the One Watershed?
One watershed, one plan.
Right,
Adopted.
Adopted.
but is it,
Pro.
is it calling for the MOA or just the,
That's the second item.
yeah?
Oh, okay.
I think
Well,
that's what
then
you're
no.
interested in.
Yes, it's the second,
I'll
sorry.
still be around.
My bad, my bad.
All right, so can I have a motion to adopt?
Chair, I'll make a motion to adopt the North Fork Crow River One Watershed One Plan.
I'll second.
Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous.
With lots of partners.
All right, item number 2.
Yes. So the memorandum of agreement will be the agreement between the 15 entities within the North Fork Crow One Watershed One Plan. And it establishes both the technical committee, which myself and my counterparts would be on, and then also the policy committee, which Commissioner Burrell has served on, would essentially continue among other things. Greg Kreiser has reviewed it, but it's still being reviewed, but I wanted to present it to you guys to see what you think, and then if you're comfortable, we'd sign at a later date, is what I would anticipate.
Mr. Chair, that's the reason, because at our last meeting, we made some, I don't know, pretty, well, I shouldn't say substantial, but a lot of changes, a lot of smaller changes, and we complain about this all the time, because we had the original, then we changed the language, and now we go in here, and there's nothing showing what was there and what is there now, you know, like the.
Oh, okay.
And it's not you.
No, that's okay. I tried to give you the final.
So now I'm looking at a nice, clean agreement, and were the changes that we talked about at our last meeting incorporated? I take it that they were, but that's kind of, it would be nice to see them with a line through, highlighted, and here's the change, you know, so. But I think our board at the One Watershed, One Plan, the Crow and the people involved there on the policy committee are gonna wanna see that, you know, too, so.
Right. So would you prefer that I provided you with a changed document and brought it back to you at a later date?
But I mean, I think with pretty good confidence, I think we can go ahead and authorize this signature. I mean, we have it worked out. I wouldn't be opposed to doing this. We're not signing it yet, we're just authorizing would you be authorizing me to sign it, or what would you be doing?
I think the signing page asks for the chair, so it'd be Commissioner Delighted.
But I would feel comfortable even doing that when the cleaned up version is finally done, which this may well be.
It may well be, but.
Mr. Chair, so Charlie, if you approve it, it's not going to come back before the board, so you're basically going to
we're okay with it.
You're okay with that? All right.
I think. Greg, did you have anything to add at all? No. Okay.
If you like, you could include in your motion barring significant changes, in which I could bring it back to you. So that's
okay.
Not a problem at all.
Mr. Chair, then I'll make that motion to authorize signature for you to sign it on the North Fork Crow River Implementation Memorandum of Agreement, barring any major changes.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Burrell, second by Commissioner Houston. Any?
Just on the signature page for Wright County on this version, or the version that's in your packet, it lists board chair and district manager, which I think is a typo. You know, there's a bunch of signature pages for SWCDs as well. So I'm assuming that Lee Kelly as county coordinator would be signing off as well, if you want to make that a part of the motion.
You know, I see Stearns County and Pope County, they all have district managers.
Well, yeah, and I don't know why. You know, normally it's the board chair and the county coordinator that would be signing off.
Are they talking about the watershed district?
Well, there's a
manager?
separate signature page, I think, for Wright SWCD.
Oh, okay.
There's a ton of signature
Yeah.
pages.
Oh, so, yeah.
Right.
Well, some of them do have a manager.
Well, and
rather than
like
a
Meeker County,
administrator.
they have the auditor as their second signature.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So
Same with Candy Ojai.
I'll make that caveat that my motion will be for the coordinator / administrator, whichever it is at the time, I guess. So.
I'll let Diane know about it when I get back to the office.
Who seconded that?
I did.
Is she okay with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that change.
All right, so we have a modified motion by Commissioner Burrell and seconded by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Now, I'm assuming why all the people are here might be for this presentation.
Yeah, I think we're reaching the main event at this time.
All right.
Okay, I'm just going to pull my presentation up here. Oops, back up though. Okay. So I'm just updating on the Wright Regional Inspection Program as it has been going so far this year. So just a couple things I'm going to talk about. Number of inspections, the wait times, violations and enforcement, a little bit about user feedback, and then some staff time interests. And then we'll offer time for discussion here. So this slide does get a bit busy. What I did was I compared the inspection amounts from 16-17 to the current year. Including, or at least for holiday hours, and then there's just the overall number of inspections on the top right. So I guess we'll start there. For overall inspections at the RIP station this year, in May we had 1,041. In June there was 998. And the first half of July through the 15th of July was 523 for a total of 2,562. And there is particular interest in the, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Bet, you look a little.
I just, because what you have there and what you gave us, like, because that's much cleaner to look at than what you gave us. Like, this was messy.
Yeah, that is a bit of a beast. That is the report that the DNR requested, and I supply that to them every month. So I just tried to sum it up in a presentation here.
That's much easier to disseminate. That's where I'm going, okay, this is.
Yeah. I apologize, I didn't have the presentation quite ready for the packet.
Okay.
So then, looking at the holiday-specific times for the top table are the lakes concerning the RIP program. So in 2016, we do see, especially 2016 had a large amount of boats. And just keep in mind that 4th of July particularly was on a Monday. So that can affect, there's more things that can affect this, weather, time of, week and, such that can affect these things. So the first number is the total inspections. The second number is the entering inspections. Because in 16 and 17, we were at the ramp, so we had both entering and exiting inspections. And then the last one is the number of hours that an inspector was at each ramp, or that inspections were available. And the reason the hours are so much less on the RIP side is because that's only the hours that inspections were available. We had more staff time than 65 hours on Memorial Weekend, but it was open for 65 hours from Friday to Monday. So they're about comparable from 2017, and it must have just been completely gorgeous in 2016, or who knows. For 4th of July week, we kind of see a similar trend. That, really, really high in 2016. Again, that 4th of July was on a Monday. These hours are from the Saturday before the 4th of July till the Friday after. So we incorporated that whole week in an attempt to normalize it with the week. So the regional inspection hours inspections are only 381. But the thing is that, you have to keep in mind people could get inspected ahead of time, among other stuff. So there's a lot of factors here. And frankly, I was in Chippewa Falls for the 4th of July, but it was kind of crummy that week. It was, hot, and I think it rained actually on the 4th of July itself. But take those numbers for what they are, a grain of salt, affected by multiple different things. And just for a comparison, I did include the inspection numbers on sugar, just to see if anything, we saw any other changes, similar changes. 2016, I'm not sure why we didn't have as many inspections. There are significantly lower hours. The hours on Memorial Weekend are actually higher, but 2016 was fairly early year, so I don't know why Sugar didn't have a lot of inspections on that time. But 2018 and 2019 look fairly comparable as far as Memorial Weekend and 4th of July. So again, it's just there for reference to compare a lake that hasn't necessarily converted to the regional inspection thing, but is does have at the ramp inspections both times. Are there any questions on inspections, or would you just like me to keep going?
Any other questions?
You're going to provide us this, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just frustrated because we talked about 3 weeks ago when would be a good time, and we were asked about would we get the 4th of July information, and now I didn't get it in the packet. I get it right here. I didn't get a chance to get to review it, let it soak in, and be able to ask good questions about it. And this is where I struggle, because there's the side of this that the public doesn't feel like they're given the information till the last minute, so they don't get chances to ask the questions when they want to ask the questions.
Okay.
That's where I challenged you when I asked, when we did the email back and forth, when it'd be a good time. That I really felt like it should have been in here so the public could have seen these numbers, so and they could have reached me so I could ask better questions, and that's where I feel like you're going wrong on this right here.
Okay. And if while we're on that topic, I'm just going to skip ahead a little bit to my staff time. So one of the things about this program is it is incredibly complex. There is data all over the place. There is the inspection data, the decon data, the roving inspector data, the law enforcement data. And trying to bring that all together has been an amazing demand on my time, in addition to all the volunteer hours. And I give a lot of credit to everyone who has put time into processing this data. But I just want to point out, as of recent, this program has taken up 2/3 of my time. For the most part, One Watershed, One Plan has been coordinated by Carrie Saxton. I've participated as much as I could, but Carrie Saxton has been taking the lead for the SWCD on that time. And to date, the SWCD has devoted $19,000, almost $20,000. And that's just at the end of June, because that's the last time we've processed our staff data. So, like, I'm just pointing out, like, I am spending an extraordinary amount of time doing this, and I'm still trying to keep up. You know, and I understand your frustrations, Commissioner. I'm just stating that it gets really complicated fast, and I wanted to give you a prompt update without waiting until September to give you 4th of July
We've
data.
had the conversations back and forth about the time and being that the amount of time that this is taking for you was way higher than what you expected or what any of us expected it to be. And that was the reason when we had the emails 3 weeks ago, and I would have rather delayed and that we had the good information before we came to this meeting and made this stuff, you know, if we had to wait till August and had, because that was my biggest caveat, was wanting that holiday information and being able to have that out to the public beforehand so that they could respond to it to me, and so I could ask the good pointed questions. And now I get it. I first seen it just a minute ago, and that's kind of where I'm like, how fair is that to the public, and how fair is it to myself? Now I'm going to end up having to have behind the scenes emails back and forth between me and you, trying to disseminate why these discrepancies from 2017, 2018, and I really felt like it should have had some transparency, and those conversations should have taken place right here. So.
Oh,
That's where my frustration was. I would have rather had you delay it than to do it premature and not have the information out there.
Is it something that maybe we should, you know, I don't know, put off for another week or two? Or?
Well, we can still get all the information, and I don't, is there any actions on this at all?
And do a
It's
follow-up.
information.
Yeah. So, well, then you do have my apologies, Commissioner. But again, just while I'm on this slide, as of the 15th of July, we've had 114 law enforcement hours. That includes both the City of Annandale Police and the county sheriffs. That is based on the time that a deputy is assigned the call until it is resolved. So, and based on their contract rate, that's about $8,000. I did also talk to a sergeant at the county fair, and he indicated that he thinks the Water Patrol is spending about half their time on this program. So that's time that they're not on the water. They're either patrolling the sites or they're responding to dispatch calls. So a little bit about wait times. This is something that we have very, very good data on. Is for the most part, people aren't waiting in line. The boats are showing up one at a time and at various times, and there's little to no wait time. It's pretty overwhelming. I've been there on site. I've never seen boats backed up at all. At most, they might have to wait for the inspection ahead of them, just the one. And inspections are actually getting faster because the inspectors are doing them together. The one inspector will man the tablet, ask the questions, and kind of fill that out, and the other one will actually do the boat inspection. They work together very well because we have two inspectors there all the time, so the inspections are actually getting quicker. So that is very good news, and I think it is reflected in the information in the board meeting packet. It's just we're getting more data to support this.
Now, the survey that's being required, is it what the DNR is requiring us to ask? Because it's through a DNR form or something.
Correct.
So what questions is the DNR making us ask?
It's, the inspections are primarily the same as those that are asked at the ramp. Is your drain plug in? Would you please open your live well? You know, and that's, where were you last? Where are you going? Those are the questions, and they're almost all the same than the questions at the ramp.
And how many are there?
It depends on the type of inspection that's being done. For example, a boat lift has different questions than a boat has, but in general, the survey is about 50 questions, but most of them are, like, the inspector's just like, did you check this? Yes, like, they don't even ask the boater that. There's only about 5 that they ask the boater. I mean, even like the first one is, what's the license plate of the vehicle? The inspector doesn't have to ask the boater that, they can just see it and enter it in the case. And if there's something that's seen on the boat, such as plants, even if they're removable, then they get a little bit long, just a little bit longer. But the DNR inspection is very consistent at about 3 to 5 minutes, which is the same as it's been at the ramp. So,
Mr. Chair, when they ask the question of where they're going next, because I've talked to some fishermen that have come out and they get their boat, they went fishing, they come out, they get it decontaminated for their next trip out. They don't necessarily know where they're going. The inspecting station requires them to pick, I mean, just to pick a lake, I mean, they have to name something, can't they? I mean, they can't just leave it open-ended.
oh, sure, they can. So the DNR asked, this is a question that the DNR is always asked at the ramp, and a boater, I don't know where I'm going next. Okay, that's just fine. And those questions, the boaters are not required to answer. They're required to submit to the inspection of water-related equipment, but if they don't want to ask or answer where they're going next or where they've been, they can prefer not to answer, and that's absolutely
Okay, so
fine.
that's probably just some dialogue difference between staff
Right,
and the
well,
people that are out
it's the
there.
DNR.
Yeah.
Correct, yes. We do ask a couple additional questions related to the regional inspection site. That was put on by our request. That has to do with, do you intend to launch today or, you know, a week from now? Again, these are optional questions. We also ask what's your purpose on the lake? Are you just going boating, or are you going fishing? Are you're going to be tubing? You know, that sort of thing. So we have 3 questions that we added by request. The DNR thought they would be good data. But again, those are optional, and you know, there's 3 of them, so that doesn't take too much time to add. Any other questions concerning wait times or inspections?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Biden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alicia, I had quite a few people ask me early and question why we're doing this, and then I showed them pictures of Lake Coronas and told them that we don't want this. We have no illusion that we're going to stop this. If we can get people educated and try to slow down this a little bit, and hopefully technology catches up, that's the purpose of this. It's a pilot program, and most people were okay with that. They understood why we're doing it. We do not want Lake Coronas here, period. That's a shame what happened on that lake. The only one complaint that I had is one person I knew had the inspection done, put it on the dashboard, and the inspector, because the truck was a little higher, said, you got to put it over here, otherwise I'm going to crawl in your hood to read it. And he became pretty upset with his brand new pickup, and he came back to the inspection when he got done and just lit into whoever was there, and was showed me the note, everything else. He says, you know, if the guy crawls on my truck, you're going to have to call law enforcement because he's going to have a problem. You know, and so they knew who wrote it, and then just say, hopefully they've taken steps to don't write a note like that there, because you're just getting people excited and agitated for no reason.
Sure. Yeah, we have our inspectors now instruct people to specifically put it on their driver's side dash so that it's easily visible for the roving inspectors. And actually, I have a little information on that in the violations and enforcement. We had 4 indications where, like, they either forgot, the POI wasn't visible, the proof of inspection, apologies, was not visible to the rovers, but the deputy was able to later verify either through personal contact or just, I can see it, maybe the deputy is a little bit taller or something. So that we had 4 4 instances where they forgot to display the POI, and 6 instances where they just said that the deputy realized that they had it. And that's just my interpretation of the narratives provided by law enforcement. Regarding violations, in May we had 69, which should be reflected in your packet there. Finishing off June, we had a total of 80. And then the first half of July, we also had 80. Just a thing to notice on that, based on the reports I saw from law enforcement, it looks like Water Patrol started doing their own patrols in addition to what the rovers conduct. So I would suggest that that's potentially part of the reason that we saw more violations in the first half of July, just because the sheriff is doing his own without waiting for a rover to dispatch it out. And then regarding the results, overwhelmingly, we get a notice left on the windshield. 165 times out of our total violations is the notice is left on the windshield, and that's basically the end of it. No, there's no further contact or anything else. And then just a couple other things that have been noticed between the rovers and the deputies. Again, the watercraft deputy, I believe, started patrols. We have seen solo trailers at the ramp where it's just the trailer. There's no vehicle. We've seen that a couple of times. You know, we don't really, we can't do anything necessarily about that. We have seen a seal is collected before the proof of inspection is collected. So this is an instance where a rover goes to the access, they open up the box, they find the zip tie seal, and then they'll come back 2 hours later and they see the corresponding proof of inspection. So it's a little bit odd that the seal is there first, but I mean, it could potentially be explained by, oh, hey, we need bait. You know, John, my son, please run into town and go get bait. I'll stay here with the boat and start fishing, you know, or like with whatever lures I have or something, or hey, go get lunch, you know, that sort of stuff. So it's just kind of one of those things where we start seeing proof of inspections by themselves without the corresponding seal. There was some proof of inspections that we saw over multiple days. That one was seen 5 times over the course of Memorial Weekend, with like it was the same proof of inspection at the ramp. And the rover can't identify that. They see the proof of inspection without the seal, but they don't necessarily know that that's any sort of violation. That's data that we get weeks later as we continue that analysis. And then based on my analysis of the reports by the law enforcement, there were 8 license plates that showed up twice in the law enforcement reports. So they violated twice and were noticed by deputies. Any questions?
Chair, because like one circumstance that I look at, they could play it for Memorial Weekend. You go on the lake, you bring your boat in on Friday, and you boat there, you beach it on somebody's shore you're there Saturday, Sunday, and you go back out there and you park your car at the boat ramp on Sunday. The date on that thing's going to be way different than what your tag went in on Friday, but you may end up having your truck there on Saturday at the lift. You could have it there on Sunday at the lift. So it's not necessarily saying they're breaking the law because the boat never left the lake. They just shorted at a friend's house.
Correct.
You know, and that's where some of the nuances of the system can be misleading, in that people are really not breaking the law in the process.
True. So we really don't know, because we don't know if that boat came out and traveled over a public roadway or not. Because if that boat came out every day, then it would be a violation, even if it goes back into the same water. But we also have no idea if they've left to go to Sugar or BB or who knows what, and just came back to Sylvia every day. We don't know. And that's just why I state that we saw the proof of inspection on five occasions over the course of different days. In general, we would say, like, if a proof of inspection is seen, 3 times in a day, they were on the water for a long time. Good for them. I hope they enjoyed it. But if they're there for multiple days, then we potentially, either they've parked the truck because they don't have room for the trailer and the truck at the cabin they're renting, or they're potentially in violation because the boat came out of the water and then went back in the next day. So and that's just things that we're seeing in the enforcement.
Alicia?
Yes, sir.
Exempt vehicle.
Oh, that was a DNR conservation officer. So the rover doesn't know if a DNR vehicle is what it is, so they reported it. The deputy came out and observed the vehicle, and he took a look inside. He's like, these are the tools of a conservation officer. So the deputy qualified it as an emergency vehicle that is exempt from the ordinance.
I wonder if that's a wise move or not.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want the public to also remember, a lot of these reports are required by the DNR to get there, so they gather data for whatever purpose they need it for. We need it for ours to see how many people are actually following along. But the main objective is to educate the public on aquatic invasive species. So we don't end up having, like again, Lake Coronas, we don't have that issue. And how many tons of that nonsense did they harvest last year or this year? It was some very large.
It was
number.
Very large. I don't know the number offhand.
It was in the tons, and it was a lot of it.
It was many tons.
The idea is we need to be a little smarter about making sure we're not transporting that.
250,000 pounds the first year, 235,000 pounds the next year.
Okay, so there was a lot.
Yes.
Yeah, just a couple.
And Mr. Chair, and I wholeheartedly agree with you, Mr. Potter, with the intent of wanting to manage the lakes and prevent the lakes. But I mean, I also want to make sure that the process in which we're doing this makes sense and that it's financially viable. If we are going to pass ordinances out there, they need to make sure that they make sense and that the paperwork behind it makes sense and the statistics make sense and that they're enforceable. That's the now we're in this pilot program. We're making sure that this is enforceable, that it is financially viable. I mean, ultimately, all of us know that it's a step in the right direction to wanting to prevent invasive species, but the future of it is, right now, we need to ask the pointed questions to decide if it makes sense.
And Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And being that we're like the guinea pig, per se, as far as inspections on this, will there be challenges? Will there be issues? Absolutely. But this is part of that learning process. Is after we get done with this pilot program, then we can sit back and analyze what made sense, what didn't make sense, what worked, what didn't work, how do we improve it so if we ever did something like this again, we'd be able to streamline that process to make it so it is more user-friendly and getting the correct data, because we're gathering so much data here, and some of it, is it really worth it or not? But you still got to collect it to find out, disseminate and decipher which relevant, what's not relevant. But the end result is we're trying to keep our asset in Wright County, as clean as possible, and so people can enjoy them and lakes.
Mr. Chair, I would echo that. I mean, we, hopefully as we go forward, it maybe is a little less cumbersome, kind of gathering this data and getting it into, into user-friendly forms and that kind of thing, because that's a lot of your time. But it's, I think it's very encouraging how it is speeded up and the wait times basically are non-existent, and the fact that they do find aquatic invasives, they can just, go right to the decontamination point, or right to the decontamination tub or whatever, wash, as opposed to being out on a landing and you get out there and, you've got aquatic invasives, you need to go back into wherever, if you're out at a lake around Annandale, go back into town and get decontaminated. So I think I appreciate that it's actually a more efficient system, and going forward, hopefully we can get it so it's not quite so cumbersome, because there's just a ton of data that you're required to keep, and that's good data, don't get me wrong, but it can get a little overwhelming.
Well, user survey, this will be an interesting.
Yeah, so we do have a user survey that's required by the Initiative Foundation for the grant with Greater Lake Sylvia. And we had they hired a consultant to analyze the data as of June 30th. And this is his executive summary. It's based on a total of 56 of the responses. They removed some of the responses based on erroneous seal numbers. We require the seal number in order to verify that they went through the program, and we get some seal numbers that are like 5555555. You know, they don't exist. So either that person, you know, doesn't know what his seal number was, or he just made it up because he's for whatever reason.
And where was this?
This is available online.
Online, okay.
Yeah, for the user survey. And it came in that 43% of the respondents strongly support the program, and 39% strongly oppose. The open-ended comments tended to be negative, for 72% negative and 19% positive, and then the last 9% were neutral or mixed. Users were divided on whether it increased their knowledge on AIS. You know, either they felt that they knew everything they needed to know, or it just didn't necessarily help them. 3 times as many users say they're more likely to engage in AIS prevention practices, and half say that there would be no change. The most highly rated feature of the prevention program is that we had courteous staff, with 63% strongly agreeing. And the lowest rated factor was increased personal responsibility for AIS prevention, with only 29% strongly agreeing. 80% of the users that responded said that they did not go to the landing before they went to the program. So we say that this is a demonstration that some of our outreach is working, and that they're going to the inspection station first when it would be most convenient to be on their way. And then the vast majority of these respondents visit the Annandale Lakes quite often, at least 5 times a year. And half of them say that it will not change their use, but 39% say that they will reduce their use of the Annandale Lakes because of the program. So those are his executive summary points of that analysis.
How many responses were there total?
Total at that time, there was about 104.
That's right, Alicia.
Yeah, just over 100 of total respondents, and then he had to remove some because of either the seal was erroneous or they didn't fill out the whole survey.
And then also we have a mini survey for those who have been through the inspection before.
Right.
This is just the ones that did the full survey for their first time inspection.
Are you authenticating? Is there using any kind of user IP to make sure that you're not getting duplicated surveys, so that it's not the same person that just filled it out 100 different times?
We checked that. We thought about doing that, but we would like to see people's like just the change over time. So we use the seal number as our key for that. So if the seal if the seal number existed, as opposed to being 1111111 or 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, we
omitted those ones.
Yeah, those are the ones that we omitted versus the ones that were actual seal numbers.
So basically, 2 or 3 individuals could make up 20 or 30% of those responses.
Theoretically, it's possible, but we want to allow that. You know, maybe if somebody was grumbly about it the first time, and then they're like, you know, the second time I went through, it wasn't so bad because I planned ahead and I didn't go to the ramp the first time or something. We want to leave that available, so that's part of our things. And then also, because it's in Google Forms, in order to track the IP address, they'd have to have a Google account in order to fill it out at all, so we didn't want to further restrict our comments.
Well,
rightfully so, yeah.
But if you have the number for the registration, from the inspection, you'd be able to figure out there if it was duplicated. Because they're going to go to another, I mean, if they went back to the lake, they're going to go get a different inspection sticker.
Correct. So in theory, we could, we haven't done this yet, we could correlate the seal numbers back to the inspection data and then compare the license plates to figure out if people have filled it out multiple times. That would potentially be analysis better suited for the end of the season when we have a larger data set.
Okay. Any other, do you have more that you want to?
But no, that was it. The staff time is my last slide here, and that's just reiterating the amount of time that it has been used from the Wright Zone Water, and then also the law enforcement.
All right, and now you're going to provide that information?
Yes.
I'm assuming send it to
Yeah.
Lee, and then he can
Get on the
send
web.
it to us, and...
Yeah.
I'd like it to be placed on the web so that.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. I did, Susan, I did update it since I sent it to you. I just added the sugar data, so I'll send you the updated thing. I sent her the presentation when I finished it yesterday so she could take notes for it. But I can provide the updated copy, absolutely. Would you like the full user survey report?
I mean, it would be handy to have just to be able to review it.
Okay.
I actually thought.
The one thing I was going to ask, though, in this process is that when you are going to come forward with kind of updating as far as where the fiscal aspects of this operation is at this point, to determine whether, you know, we have to look sooner than later as to the financial viability, the future of the program.
I do have some fiscal information on the data. One thing that I would caution with fiscal data is that some of the stuff gets front-loaded in the season. You know, like we bought all of our seals, you know, at this point, or what we expect, you know, I mean, so that's going to carry through October. But if you would like more information about the finances, so I guess that would be my question is, when do you want me to come back with information?
I mean, depending on what, you know, whether you feel like you have enough funding, projecting out, if you think you're going to be good for enough funding for another year, then it's not as urgent. If you feel like that there is not going to be enough funding for another year, then we actually have to have some serious conversations as to where this goes. You know, that's the reason I'm saying, from your forecasting, your aspects, where are you at? Is it almost like 90% chance that there's not going to be enough money to fund the operation a whole nother year? Then if that's the case, then we really have to have some conversations, because I don't want to open up an inspection station only to run it for 2 months and then be like, well, we're out of money.
I believe we have enough money to run it through the current season, but I would turn it over to the Greater Lake Sylvia and the other lake associations to their prospects for anything continued into 2019.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Alicia, I'd like to have a report after the season is over.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
sure.
And then come back
Absolutely.
then, because
Okay.
to come back before the end of the season, you're not going to have time to get the data
Right.
where it's at. So you end up this middle of October?
Yeah, it'll depend basically on when it gets cold and when it's not a good idea to operate our decontamination unit due to water freezing within the equipment. So that's really when we kind of have to make that judgment call. So if you assume first frost is about mid-October, we just have to make our judgment call around that point. We do have it budgeted through the end of October, but we'll just have to make our judgment on the equipment at that.
So would it be safe to say sometime mid to late November, early December to come with a report to have the year end, or can you?
I would say early December.
Early December.
I mean, my full report to the DNR is due at the end of the year, but I could come back
Okay, so somewhere
sooner.
early, mid-December, somewhere there would be a good time then.
Okay.
Thank you.
And to echo Commissioner Vetch's comment about financing for next year, if you're expecting the county to put in any money, budget is coming up, and that has to be discussed during budget time. Otherwise, there will be no money available.
Correct.
So that's something that you'll have to discuss, and bring back to this board here within the next couple of weeks, if you feel that you'll need additional monies.
And if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I would turn that over to Greater Lake Sylvia, whether you want them to say anything about it right now.
Well, I would say since it's kind of a all-of-a-sudden type deal, that you need to have the discussion with them on how much Wright WCD and what money we'll be getting from the state regarding AIS and that sort of stuff for next year. So I think it's kind of premature to ask them.
We have discussed it a little bit already, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, but as far as Wright Soil and Water, I don't anticipate, the only way that they're getting more money is by adding more lakes. Because our AIS prevention aid is simply allocating the amount of money that we would put at the ramp at each lake involved. And because we don't want to take any money away from the at the ramp programs. So and that's something that they've been talking about for their budget concerns, which is part of the reason I would talk to them.
Mr. Chair, that's the reason I was saying if you're going to have those conversations, they have to happen a lot sooner than later, because we budgetary, our law enforcement would be inadequately equipped to add more lakes, and you know it has budgetary impacts to us, and we wouldn't be equipped for it, and then you guys wouldn't be able to move forward because we would have to say no, because we're not financially equipped to make those decisions in December.
Right.
And that's the reason I'm saying, if you guys feel that you do not have enough money to operate
Next year,
we need to talk. We can't wait till December. It's just, it's not likely. It's not going to bode well for you. And Mr. Chair, I'd love to see one of the members in the.
Hector has a comment, his hand up.
Yeah, but I see Chief Deputy there. Do you have something to add regarding enforcement?
Sorry, excuse me, Chief Deputy.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. In preparation for today's presentation, on Monday, I did a 30-day report on the AIS inspection for cases. This is calls for service that actually turned into a case. The deputy actually responded and did a report on. And I kind of went through, I touched on some other types of cases that we handle. In that same 30-day period from June 23rd to July 23rd, we handled 4 burglaries. We handled 20 assaults. We handled 24 neighborhood disputes, 34 shoplifting complaints, 47 criminal damage of properties, 47 fraud complaints, 73 theft complaints, 87 domestic disturbance complaints, and 88 gas drive-offs. During that same time period, we handled 126 invasive species complaints for 3 lakes in the county. The average time spent from the time a deputy was assigned that call till they completed that call was about 40 minutes. During this phase of the AIS project, we're focusing on educating the public. As you've heard, that we place educational flyers on the alleged violating vehicles, and I believe that's provided by Soil and Water, those pamphlets. The reason why we're only doing the education part of this process right now is we want to inform the public, and also working with the county attorney's office. This isn't like a parking complaint where somebody's parked in a no parking zone where we can just go up and issue a citation, leave it on the dash and not speak to anyone. I would venture to guess, and I don't have exact numbers, well over 80% of the calls that we go to, there's no one there by the vehicle. We don't have anyone to speak to when we arrive at scene. They're out on the lake. We don't know how long they're going to be on the lake. So we would have to, if we decide to go into the enforcement phase, our 40 minutes of deputy time is going to increase substantially. Because you're going to have to, after the fact, get in contact with this person. Were they just bringing the trailer there to pick up the boat after a weekend when it was on shore at a neighbor's house or whatever that is? So there's that amount of time is going to increase substantially.
When is has your special deputy started yet?
He has started. He is now on a 2-week military leave. But we do have our temporary, our seasonal employees have started. They're going through the training process. Again, it's not as easy as several years ago where you have a piece of paper, you write a citation, and you send it in the mail to somebody. Everything's electronic nowadays. The state requires citations to be submitted electronically, so we have to train these new employees on how to use our Zerker RMS system, get into the states, testimony and all that kind of other stuff. So I just for your information, you know, back in 2017, the Deputy Director of the Department of Natural Resources advised the county board that if we're going to take on this ordinance, we take on the sole responsibility for the AIS on those 3 lakes, okay? There are other AIS around here, or not AIS, but other invasive species. We've got emerald ash borer, we've got buckthorn, Japanese barberry, Asian bush honeysuckle, and all these other types of invasive species. If the board wants to go into invasive species enforcement, we're going to need more staffing. There's no way that the Wright County Sheriff's Office can either increase lakes, increase enforcement of other invasive species without staffing. I believe we heard testimony also today that their office is overwhelming the amount of staffing that's required, and I don't know if that's why the DNR was so willing to allow the county or to take over control of it, but that's all the information I have for today. Just be aware that it's becoming a drain on resources.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Chief Deputy Hoffman, for quantifying, because that's one thing that all these numbers I put out there that doesn't quantify. Those numbers in that budget for operating this system doesn't quantify what it costs the county to try and enforce this, and what we lose by not enforcing other laws in this process. You know, so it's a very delicate dance. I mean, we all agree we want to protect our lakes, but at what cost?
Absolutely, and again, the Sheriff's Office, I mean, the Department of Natural Resources, we feel for the lake associations, but is Wright County equipped to deal with this statewide issue? Or is a state agency better equipped to deal with that? So.
Oh, there's no doubt who's better.
Yeah.
Who should be doing it.
Should be.
Was there an inspector, did you say that was back there, or somebody had their hand up?
Chris Hector.
Yeah, Chris Hector.
Come on, come up here.
It's camera time today.
Yeah.
Thank you. Chris Hector, I'm the past president of the Greater Lake Sylvia Association. And regarding the kind of providing a presentation of what is the cost and how this is scaling up, I believe that if we had an opportunity to come back in 3-4 weeks, we should have enough data that we can have the conversation, because I believe the earlier that we can have that conversation, they won't be, you know, final audited numbers, but it'll give you an idea of how we're doing, what the cost of operations are. So with your permission, you know, I'd be happy to work with Alicia and the rest of the team and pull together a presentation on the finance side.
I would think
that'd be a good idea.
For and that would be 3 weeks for sure. I think the 4th weeks might be a little too late. So 3 weeks would be better.
3 weeks? All right.
So, yeah, and if you are going to be asking for money, what that amount's going to be, where the funding's all coming from. I don't know if we're getting AIS money again next year from the state. So all those numbers work together with Alicia on where that money's coming from.
We anticipate that we'll get AIS funds. The exact amount we don't know until August, I believe, but it should be about the same.
You got to push really hard.
Depending on how many other counties have added a parking spot or two to their landings. But it should be about that 230,000.
Okay. All right,
That'd be
thank you.
good, thank you.
Did anybody else have something? I thought I saw another hand up. No? Okay. Yeah,
You got to
come on.
My name is Mike Ziska. I'm on the Soil and Water, and I'm also a lake owner. I heard a couple of times people say the lake associations. This isn't, in my opinion, just a lake association issue. This is a quality of life issue for all of us. It's our tax base, it's our children's future. It's much bigger than a lake association wanting to keep their lake clean. We're lucky to have them trying to keep our lakes clean because it's important to all of us.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Okay, anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Potter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, to reiterate, this is a pilot program. Thank goodness for Lake Sylvia coming forward. It is for all the lakes, but we have to start somewhere. We have to do something. Doing nothing is not an option. We have to do something. Is this going to be perfect? Probably not. Is this going to get us some information? Probably. Is it going to be perfect? Well, we disseminate that at the end and we figure out, okay, this can work, this won't work, this is where it's being effective and this where it's not. And the whole thing is to educate people on what this, because not just the people living on the lakes, but the people using the lakes need to be good stewards of those lakes. And Wright County is blessed with a lot of lakes, and me being a resort owner, these are things that are real near and dear to me, because these poor people live on those lakes, they're paying taxes, a lot of it on those lakes. They need to make sure that we're taking, at least trying to take steps there. And DNR hasn't been lockstep happy with this process. I mean, I've talked to Senator Ingebrigtsen on many occasions about this, that they are not actually a willing participant all the way through this. They're trying to make it data intensive to try to befuddle everybody, for lack of a better word. But we are going to work our way through this and try to figure out how can we best reach the people to let them know there is a problem and we do need to be taking this serious, because Lake Coronis, those numbers, that's, oh my, that's a lot of pounds of starry stonewort to take out. Yeah, and that's, you start making a lake where it's not good to recreate or be on anymore, you're going to have issues that comes with that. And I'll get off the soapbox, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Yeah. Somebody want to come up here?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Kevin Farnham, and I actually live in Delano, but I am on Lake Coronis, and I act as the chair for Stearns County AIS Committee. So I see Alicia at various regional meetings around the state. I also am responsible for all of the AIS activities on Lake Coronis. So I manage the project and stuff dealing with the starry stonewort over on Lake Coronis. So I just want to encourage you and thank you for being brave and kind of standing out and taking on this pilot. I mean, we would love, as other places around the state, we would love to have a pilot and stuff, so we are all watching and learning just from what is happening here. It's really important. You know, we sit in with Rice Lake and Lake Coronis are right next to each other. We're in a great position to have the same kind of a regional model. But also, Stearns County sits out there with a border lake that is shared with Wright County, which is Clearwater Lake. So we manage and pay for the inspections and stuff on the other end of on the two access points that are on that lake. So in a way, whether you like it or not, we're partners, you know, in this process of trying to do it. So I would offer that certainly, I think you're in the Delano area, so I mean, I would offer that if things come up that that you need my presence. It's pretty easy for me to get here, so I'm just down the road. It's not like I have to come from Painesville, and I think there's a lot of things that we can do together. But I do want to thank you for being brave enough to do that. You know, we're trying to figure out how we can work together and stuff on these projects with invasive species, because it's so important to the lakes. It's not just Lake Coronas. You don't want what we got. And we don't want to give it to you. So anyhow, thanks for listening. And thanks for your efforts.
As long as you're here. So I'm assuming you're doing inspections at all of the entrances and exits to that lake for people that are leaving that lake to make sure they're not taking anything with them?
Right. We approach it as a watershed issue on Lake Coronas. So the delegation agreement that I believe Soil and Water signs here, or you sign here, to be able to use Anchor Dock, we have two in Stearns County. One is signed by the county, and that handles all of the inspection except what is in the North Fork of the Crow River Watershed District. And we talked to the Board of Managers there, and they signed the delegation agreement for us. It gives us, I feel it gives us a little bit of freedom and more control. So by doing it that way, rather than being part of the whole county, we kind of have, we actually contract with the same company out of Painesville to do it, to do the inspections. So it's the same people. So in the process of doing that, we have inspectors. Unfortunately, we have 5 access locations. One of them is a dirt road, no parking. We get no credit for that. That's township. We have another one that has 5 spots. It's used only by locals, so we don't have an inspector there. Typically, if we have a big tournament, we'll put someone there just because of its location. We have a regional park, which we share with Meeker County, and so we do staff that. I don't think it's me.
No, that's just my computer.
Oh, okay. We do staff that, you know, with kind of mostly weekend hours because of how that's used. The major access that we have is Highway 55. It's right where 55 and Highway 4 come together. We staff that. Typically, it's like 90 hours a week. We don't go after dark, which is the same kind of practice I think that you do. We don't like to have inspectors out after dark at an access, but they get there, it's 6 or 7 in the morning, depends if we know there's a tournament. And then we don't staff right in the middle of the day because that tends to be the least busy. I mean, we're trying to manage our budget, but our budget for Corona, and then I'm sorry, there was one other city launch that we staff about the same. So our budget, to give you an idea, for Coronas and then Rice Lake, which has 2 accesses, one's more used than the other, and then Grove Lake, which is out of Pope County, our budget's about $90,000, to give you an idea. And so we do as many inspections out. Our strategy has always been, the priority is don't let it go out. The second priority is don't let the new one come in. And then the third priority, which is really let's figure out how to manage what we've got. And that's the big project and stuff that we manage. We estimate that to be, will be coming up now because the grants from the Initiative Foundation were not extended. Our grant from them is $425,000 that we had to come up with a match for. So, and we'll have probably exhausted as much as we can, but it's getting difficult the way the pilot was set out to spend. I mean, it's like, because you can't prepay and there's other conditions. So that gave you more than you probably wanted, so sorry.
No, Mr. Chair, I want to say thank you to your organization in making it forefront on keeping what you got there. I mean, you guys are spending a great deal of money at that. I mean, and really every lake association, every lake user, every boater should be over the moon thankful to your organization in being as conscientious as you are in making sure that you're trying to figure out a way to fix what you have and making sure it doesn't spread.
Yeah. Thank you.
Paul, you've got Kevin up there. Can I ask Kevin a question and have him tell you, Lake Sylvia was just treated a week ago for Very Stonewater. You guys were just treating Coronas. What did it cost you?
I have my bill for the chemical treatment was $84,000. And that doesn't count the survey work. It'll be another probably $4,000 of survey because we're required, and we would do it anyhow. We do a pre-survey and a post-survey. And because we want to know what it is. We're gathering tons, as you are, we're gathering tons and tons of data for the country. I just did a presentation last week, Wednesday, at the Aquatic Plant Management Society in Buffalo, New York. And the whole purpose is how can we share what we're learning on starry stonewort across the nation. So, and there was pretty good interest in what we're doing, trying to take the scientific piece and turn it into some kind of a management practice. So
The amount that you sprayed, was that for the whole contaminated area, or was that only for partial?
We did, it's really partial. We did 241 acres of application, which is certainly the largest in the state.
And how big is Lake Coronas?
3,000 acres. So, but we have a variance from DNR to treat over the 15% littoral area, which is kind of the standard rule that they use. So we have a lake vegetation management plan that DNR actually helped us develop, and it had all the criteria and stuff in it. So, and we kind of went at treating the large South Bay area around Highway 55 axis, and then we treated out at 11 other different places around the lake where we knew that it was heavy and had been recognized for several years to be in that area. So,
okay. Gentleman in the white, come on up. I know you keep having your hand up. I wasn't ignoring you.
I'll be quick. Mr. Chair and members of the board, I'm Joe Schneider. I'm the president of the Christmas Lake Homeowners Association. I'm also the president of Minnesota COLA, which is the statewide volunteer network of lake associations around Minnesota. Clearly, you recognize how unique what you're doing is. And it is a pilot. We knew there were going to be challenges. We knew there were going to be things you're going to have to learn, things we're going to have to figure out as you implement this. And you know this is a first step. It's a fantastic first step. Groups from around the state are watching. There are various pieces of lake associations and counties around the state that are wanting to do something like this. So they're looking to see what's working, what's not working, because the problem is not being solved by the DNR, as you know. That's the reality of the thing. I would just tell you, we as Minnesota COLA applaud your leadership in taking this on, and we look forward to working with you in any way we can to help keep our public waters free of invasives. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, is that it? Somebody else? Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break. Yeah. All right. We will convene at 10:27.
Mark, make sure. There he is. Okay. We have momentary technical difficulties.
Sorry about that. We should be live.
We're back. Sorry, a little bit of technical difficulties. All right, we have a committee of the whole. Commissioner Vetch, will you take the committee of the whole from July 12th, please?
Absolutely. On July 12th, we had a committee of the whole, members present, Burrell, Dahlheiden, Hewsome, Potter, Vetch, and Lee Kelly. Others present were Goodwin Schwartz, Bartlow, West, Messina, Wilczek, Kelly, Hevola, Baith, Meyer, Bruce Schwartzman, BKV Group. The discussion started off regarding the proposal from BKV Group on the design phase of the new possible courts government center, not courts government, sorry, we'll get this right. Administration building.
Administration HHS, actually, is what it is going to be.
A new government center. There was some discussion back and forth between members of the board, and it was stated from Commissioner Dahlheiden, is there an adequate space? It's noted that there is adequate space within the current government center for the next 20 years. There was some back and forth discussions from other members. The next surrounding question was kind of around the space study in BKV and whether the space study encompassed the needs of departments over the next 20 plus years. In the price quote that they were given around for a new government center, and also whether that space study could be modified or to move forward in taking in the discussion of possibility of leasing space and adding soil and water and other features within this new government center. In moving into the new area vacated by the Law Legal Department, there's a discussion as to what areas within this current building and whether that was still fit and what the cost would be. For consideration and discussion, there was a put forward as to what the three options were, whether one would be to leave the county in the current situation that it's in, basically moving court services and the courts over there and leaving those spaces empty for a period of time, which would be the do-nothing plan, or the secondary option would be to remodel this space to a tune of a number that we are not totally clear on the number. That number could be as low as 18 million, could be as much as 22 million, depending on what that remodeling cost would be. As a third option would be then for the construction of a new building. After much debate amongst board members, it was a consensus that the best option at this time would be to continue going forward and getting more information and in the construction of a new building facility. I think it reads here that it was, the consensus was to build a new building. I think it was, the consensus was more to keep going forward with that process, not 100% voting on building a new building, but it was to move forward.
We didn't commit to any building, and
but it's, we're going to commit more funds to that direction, to getting more information, to be able to.
Well, my biggest concern is that the building that BKB proposed is smaller than the existing building here.
And that's where
and that's my biggest concern.
And we're going to do.
And he was going to look at that to make sure that he had the numbers correctly. But if we're building a new building and it's smaller than our existing building, something doesn't make sense somewhere.
Yep. And the recommendations were to include the cost for a new building projected in the 2019 and have BKV review the space programming with departments and outside entities that could be to give us a better scope of what a new building layout would be or cost structure would be. I think it reads a little bit limited there, just, with BKV will review space programming with departments, but I think we were also going to go with review outside space needs if we would go that route to give us a more grandiose,
Sure.
holistic approach to what we'd like.
So Commissioner Vetch,
Potentially like, so we know if we want to scale back or not.
so you're proposing to change the recommendation?
Yes,
Add that-
because I believe that the consensus from that committee of the whole was to take, if we were going to go that route, was put everything in there and find out what the cost would be, and then decide if we still want to go forward or not, or if we needed to scale back or not do it at all. But right now, we don't have that information, and that's the information that we needed.
Well, like I said, we have 157,000 square feet in this building, I believe was the number.
I thought
And
it
the
was 56, but yeah, close.
156,000 square feet, and the building they proposed was 130,000, if I remember correctly. Is that the correct number?
About that.
So if I could, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good to see you. So I was reading through the report and double checking that number, and the number that we had for this building, the gross number for this building, per the report we did with the study, was 132,656. So that was actually the number for this building, including the parking down there as well. So the entire building here, annex and everything, 132,656.
So we must have had the 156 must have included the jail.
That must be what it is, because the lobby and stuff is.
No, it didn't. No, see, that paper, that information said no, it didn't,
Yeah.
without including the jail. It just said it had enough space for the next 20 years.
So then, Commissioner, to go into the programming portion, so that's the number for this building. And if I could, when we did the study, we had gone through the initial programming with all the departments and whatnot, and at that point, we had estimated 120,000 square feet for the new facility. So you're right, it's about 13, at that point, it was about 13,000 square feet smaller than this building. But there's some efficiencies, too, that are being planned as far as space sizes and layouts and flows of space and things like this. We went back. My recommendation on the July 12th meeting was, before you move ahead, there was some concern that was expressed by the board. Would this program suddenly, was the spaces blow up? There were some things that happened with the court planning, caused the building to be a lot bigger, and I think we all really didn't expect that until we got into it a little bit. And so we went back. So last Thursday, we met with all the departments, or a few we didn't meet with. We followed up on phone calls. I put a memo to Alan together, and I apologize, it went out just this morning. But the memo talked about how we got together with all the various departments. We had gone through and we confirmed the 20-year projection for all those departments, and we confirmed areas. And the final number, after we worked through, Human Services, I think, had a number of staff that wasn't identified, that we increased that. Recorder needed some additional space. I'm trying to think who else. We went through, actually, I got the program.
Maintenance department was another one that was looking for a little more than it.
Facility services, facilities management.
Correct.
We didn't have adequate space for Alan in there and Alan's department. So we went through and revised it. The number we came up with, not to belabor it, but the revised number we came up with, and the commissioner asked me if I was willing to sell my soul for the accuracy of the number. I guess I'm glad I didn't. But it was 129,514. So it went up by 9,514 square feet. To be quite candid with you, I was very pleased with the fact that it was that tight. It didn't go up higher. And we were very, if somebody wanted more space, we discussed it, we scrutinized the request. I don't think anybody was being unrealistic. We also wanted people to make sure they were thinking 20 years out and not being too conservative. So I think all in all, the roughly 9,500 increase gave us a peace of mind that we were right in the ballpark. Yeah, it was a little bit higher. It was 8% higher than what we had before, but it was right in the ballpark.
No, again, that includes bringing in license, testing, and that sort of.
So licensing, yes, it does include bringing in licensing, but the other departments, and there was another group that equates to almost 11,000 square feet of additional potential leasers, and that's for the board to kind of discuss. So if DMB brings their testing division over, it's about 700 square feet just for the testing division. Soil and water, we met with Soil and Water Conservation District. The program that we developed them was 1,893 square feet. And again, I'll talk to the county coordinator as well as Alan to make sure you all have this memo that went out. But because it summarizes a lot of this. So theirs was 1,893 square feet for water conservation. We also talked about bringing Crow River in because I guess they work a lot with the water conservation, and they have about 700 square feet of space that they lease as well. A topic that was brought up by Health and Human Services was the idea of a dental clinic, and I guess there are a number of dental clinics around different regions of the state, and there was a number of 5,000 square feet put out for a dental clinic, and I guess they do lease space, what I was told by Sarah, I believe, was that that's pretty common as far as the amount of square footage. Now, it's a fairly sizable space, but that's what they would lease. And then the other one that was brought up too was the idea of health partners having a clinic within the facility that could facilitate staff and whatnot. Their space was about 1,500 square feet. So when you get done, and those are all leasers, so that's 5 various groups, or would all be leases. The 10,000 square feet, when you get done putting a grossing factor on it, it comes out to 11,000 square feet of additional space.
To bring it to 140,000 square feet.
So exactly. So you add it to the whole thing, and you're now up to a 140 if you were at it all together.
So Chair, Bruce, did I hear right? You said 5,000 for dental, but 1,500 for health partners?
Yeah, I was told by Sarah.
Well, I guess why I question that is why Soil and Water has less than 2,000 for all of their people, and Crow 700 square feet, but a dental 5,000. That just didn't.
So we haven't actually met with the dental group.
Okay.
We got this information from Health and Human Services as far as what the dental, and I assume it's a group of dentists that run these dental clinics or whatever, what they said their typical space was. So we didn't actually kind of.
Okay. Yeah, just.
The Health Partners was right on track with what we've seen. And to be quite honest with you, Commissioner, we initially thought theirs would be, the dental would be 1,500 too, but
that
I agree.
Is what I would think, but yeah.
So in my mind, that 11,000, I mean, there's twofold. One is if the county were to say, yes, let's go with that additional 11,000, the leasers, you kind of we'd want to put that in play early on. Are they really part of it? Or are they not really part of it? It does give the county space to grow into in the future. So, I mean, if you needed more space, you'd have that additional space rather than building it in the future, the space would be there. But I think that all has to be qualified. We're pretty good that they're all good except for that 5,000 clinic number. Yeah. Now, the 11,000 square feet in construction dollars for construction cost adds almost $3.5 million of construction cost, $3 to $3.5 million in that range. You wouldn't have to provide any furniture for any of these groups because, again, they're leasers. They would bring in their own furniture. That wouldn't be provided by the county. They'd basically get a space that they'd be leasing. So the 129 was the confirmed number, 129.5 to be accurate, and then this potential $11,000 on top of it. So at the end of the day, and again, as part of the memo, we attached the revised program as well. I think the information that we got back, it was good confirmation to know that there weren't going to be any surprises later on. We have some numbers, and I do want to tell the board as well that there's still enough. They're not so tight that we don't have some wiggle room as the building gets designed. So, and then the next thing, of course, will be cost, and it is a little higher. Even the 9,000 is a little bit higher than what was initially projected by Ellers in the bonding, but. It'll be interesting because we hit a we hit just this anomaly when we bid the courthouse. I mean, we just got phenomenal numbers, and hopefully that'll happen again. We're estimating higher. We're estimating what we would think would be, but at the end of the day, hopefully it'll be in line because the courthouse bid around $262 a square foot. Just to let you know, with contingencies and everything else, the courthouse bid at $262 a square feet. If you were to inflate that number to today's values, or I shouldn't say today's values, to 2019 values of what we're planning for this government center, double check that real quick before I state a number that I mistake.
A whole lot of money.
It is a lot of money, Commissioner. So it's about $289 a square foot. So if you inflate that at 5% per year to today's number, it's about $289 a square foot. The number we had used for the government center is currently right around, sorry, I was scribbling some numbers while we were going through the last meeting. It was right around 296 7 a square foot. So there's $8 per square foot of contingency in there of higher value that we would expect. So it's not drastically off, but it's a little bit higher. Again, if we hit it in some of these great bidding climate, it could be as, you know, some of the great numbers we got for the courthouse.
What was the courthouse? What was our final?
For the construction, not total project, but for construction, it ended up coming in at $262 a square foot.
And you had originally factored 297 for it.
So if you
For the
did,
government center.
so if you do 297 at 140,000 square feet, you're looking at $41.5 million. And then you got to put FF&E costs and contingency costs, probably to the tune of about another $5 million. You're looking at about 47 million bucks.
We had, Commissioner, we had it figured, because not all that's going to get furniture, but we had, with a new number, we figured it were right around 40, oh, actually, you're right around 46, 47. Yep, that's exactly right. I was looking at the 129, which didn't include that, so you're right.
You use the same percentages as you would the Justice Center. That's where I came up with the numbers, so.
Exactly. Per our proposal on the project, Integrity Group is part of our team at the very start. And so if the county board were to approve the project proceed, one of the first things we're going to do is jump into pulling together departments, putting together plans, doing all the things we did on the other project, you know, kind of working out site issues, making sure that there's no, site issues are critical from the very start because they're doing site work right now, so anything we can do to minimize additional costs would be critical. We'd start that design phase, develop the plans, and then Integrity would also help to do all the construction estimates as well as we get into it more, so they'd be doing some more detailed estimates. We did send Alan a preliminary schedule. Integrity Group did help with the schedule as well, and the goal would be early March if things were to go ahead. We're right in the window right now where there's adequate time to do the project. There's not excessive time, but there's adequate time to do the project and still bid the project in early spring.
Is there cost savings to doing it at the same time while there are already construction crews out there and you're not going to be doing, you know, tearing up something that you're already doing once? I'm trying to just, you know, to decide if there's benefits to doing it sooner than later on top of just the inflation.
Exactly. So the inflation, of course, is one impact that we see this happening. The coordination of site work can happen no matter what. I'll be honest with you. If we know, we don't have a building identified an exact footprint, but as far as knowing where utilities might be and how things might tie into it, there could be some things assumed, and you could make some allowances for stubs and connections and things like that. So I think from a utility standpoint, from a phasing of contractor, your earthwork grading folks, they're going to be in there and out. They'll come back for some final prep and for asphalt later on, like next spring. But there's not a lot of benefit. There could be some subs. I say that, but you know, there are some mechanical, electrical, some major trades that would probably see a real advantage, to tell you the truth, to being on the same site and working their crews generally in the same site, because it would almost be a continuation. So actually, there could be, now that I think about it, the close proximity and the time relationship actually could see some savings from some of these major subs.
Now, one of the things that was discussed at one time was a tunnel in comparison to a skyway. And I have a major concern, and from my understanding, the skyway was supposedly going to be a little bit cheaper. But I have a concern about a skyway between the two buildings being out in the people's eyes, in their face. I just don't like that idea. And I know attorneys will be complaining about having to walk outside in the wintertime. They'll probably be the worst. So the pricing you gave us really doesn't include.
And Commissioner, I totally agree with you. I personally think, and my team and I kind of went back and forth, I think a bridge could be obtrusive. I think it could be, you know, it just would look awkward because it's not a small area. It could
it's in
look
your
awkward.
face.
Yeah.
And then when we looked at the tunnel, of course, what we had to do was make sure we were missing any of the geothermal wells, so it kind of looped things around. I forgot what it was. It was 3 to 4 million. Does that sound about right for what was tossed out there, or was it higher?
It was higher.
Was it for a tunnel?
It was higher, because I know the overhead one was close to 7 million, 5 to 7 by the time you got that one done.
Oh, really? Oh, so it was, I was told that.
It was two the long stretch and the fact you have to have the clearance
building
over
a tunnel.
the parking lot.
Maybe
It's just
that's
when
a
I'm seeing
future
that number,
project.
they can walk. For that kind of money, they can walk.
Yeah.
So,
Question
Well,
that
St. Paul, they outlawed them there for now.
Mr. Chair, the question that I'm kind of wanting to get some answers to is, that 11,000 square feet addition, what would be the lease payment as far as in correlation to the increased debt service payment? Because in our 5-year projections, we projected a cost of about a $40 million building in our 5-year plus projection out as far as levy.
Well, I don't think you're gonna get full 11,000 rented out, because I have a feeling that that dental stuff is gonna be a freebie.
Which we can still
Because-
shrink the building. I mean, my question is what, what
Yeah, but
offsets the-
part of that will, I believe that that dental clinic is gonna be on the county part. That won't be, because those are nonprofits that come in here to do them.
And that's when we
And
may
right
decide
now-
altogether just to axe out that.
They're talking actually a group though, but yeah,
Well,
it
it's a,
seems like,
it's a group that currently services the county once a month or twice a month.
but I had the same question. I mean, that extra $4.5 million, how fast could we recoup that, in lease payments? And so it's, to me, that's kind of a iffy deal. I mean, we're not.
Well, the question is whether it would cover its own debt payment. Would the lease
Well,
space
exactly.
pay the debt service payment on it?
Yep.
That's,
Yep.
and that's one question, which we would want to answer that before we decide to add that 11,000
Right.
square feet. And we wouldn't have to tie ourselves to adding that 11,000 square feet
No.
right now. I mean, and we can pick and choose out of those items listed.
I think, Commissioner, and what we've done on other projects too, because we have had housing projects that have had renters in like the first level and things like this. And a lot of times what they do is put preliminary agreements in place even as they start. So I think as the project starts, we'd meet with these groups to talk about, confirm their areas, make sure they're right, but then also talk about what that agreement with the county would be and the county attorney to what that preliminary lease agreement, because the county's not going to build the space if they're not going to come along. They're not going to be part of it. And to Commissioner Delayden's comment too, as far as the dental clinic, again, you never know, but according to what Sarah had stated, they do currently lease where they're at. All the clinics where they're at in, I think she mentioned Olmsted and Rochester and some of these other areas where they have these types of dental clinics, they do lease space, so. But again, that has to be vetted out to make sure that the county's not investing money to deadbeats that aren't going to be paying their leases, so.
Yeah, I would have thought this was a nonprofit that they currently come out here right now.
So, I mean,
And it's because of MA people, that there's no local dentists other than, I think there's 3 that are accepting MA for medical,
In the
for
county.
dental.
so I just want to make sure we clear this out. So if we take the 11,000 out and we go right back down to the 129,500 square feet, you're looking at a cost of about 38.5 million construction costs. You add the FF&E into it and contingencies, you're looking at about 41 3/4, just about $42 million to build the building, all said and done. In a comparison of remodeling this building at a cost of between, I'm going to qualify it between 18 and $22 million.
And the 22 million, if I remember correctly, made this building efficient. It
doesn't make the county efficient. It makes this building, well,
A little more.
It makes a lot more efficient than,
not utility-wise. It makes it efficient as far as walkability and department organizationally. I want to qualify that. I mean,
you're right.
So, that's the side of it that.
And I guess that's a good question. You bring up energy efficiency. What does it cost to operate this building, energy-wise?
I think I had.
And what is it going to cost in the new building?
It would actually be less because it would be more.
Well, I know, but what are we talking, $1,000 a year difference?
No,
Are we
we're
talking?
not.
No, I know, but then again, that's something that
I thought
we
Alan
do need to
presented that
put into
number.
the numbers too. What is our savings?
Yeah, I thought he said it was
Around 30%.
I thought he said it was like like 60,000, I thought was the number I thought, but don't quote me on that.
Could be feasible. I mean, off the top of my head, I think we're about 360 to 400,000 just in operations for electric fuel.
I think where Mark's coming from though is you're gonna buy a new car because it gets better gas mileage, but the new car costs you $60,000. You would have to drive for 3 lifetimes to make up for the extra 20 miles or 15 miles to the gallon that you get. So
But that's one of the items. I mean, because you're also putting the whole county efficiency versus just the government center efficiency. At 22 million, you're getting just this group here efficient, whereas if you're building out there, you're putting all departments on one campus. So there's county-wide efficiency there.
Right.
You know, you're going to get electrical efficiencies. It's whether the total amount of efficiencies that you're getting as a whole out there makes sense versus just the little bit efficiencies you're getting here at, you know, you're doubling the cost. I mean, you're going from 22 million to 42. It's tough. I mean, but you're looking at a lifetime of a building. Let's say the number is $60,000 a year in just utilities times 30 years, because we're going to have that at 30 years. That's $2 million just there in utility savings versus this building in there, because we're going to be in this building for 30 years, whether we do 22 here or 42 there, so that, you know.
Hopefully longer than 20 years.
I mean, that's just utilities. I mean, and I don't know. We don't even know when you remodel an old building. That's the reason I caution everyone. I've done enough old building remodels.
But Derek, I don't think there was anybody that's talking about putting 20 or 30 million dollars into the building here. My idea was to do, you know, your middle option, to do nothing, but do virtually nothing, I guess is what my thing would be. To just buy us 10 years, 15 years, and then you'll have a 15-year newer building out there. But you might have 14.5 interest rates too.
I don't know. It's always a gamble.
And Mr. Chair, and I talked to people at the fair about this, you know, the conundrum we're in with this deal here. And the factor that came in when it talked about the nuclear plant potentially being decommissioned 2030, and wouldn't you rather have them participate in half the cost of this building? And they're going, oh my, yeah, definitely would like that, because if you decide to wait 10 years and they're no longer on the plan here, all of a sudden the burden of the taxpayer is much higher now.
Yeah.
And that's the other part that they were saying, oh my Lord, because you look at the numbers here, and I know Sherburne County is doing a total remodel to 120,000 square foot, their existing government center, and that's a much newer building than this one, and their number is pretty darn high. I think it's right in this neighborhood, we're building a brand new building, the number we're looking at, and that's a newer building.
So, Mr. Chair, I want to clarify this, and Lee. So if we're approving these minutes and the recommendations, are the recommendations then to approve the $1.6 million design build contract with BKV with not to exceed the, or not exceed, but not the words, but at that rate, and he said that he would keep it under the same terms for up to 165,000 square feet, right? Not that we would want to go that big, but if in some reason in the process leasers want into it, they sign contracts into it, I'm not held.
As I mentioned last time, Commissioner, to us, once we start the project, we can move efficiently. It's the cost of increase really is later in the game. We get something laid out, and next thing you know, you say, oh, by the way, there's 30,000 square feet. Now you got to kind of start from scratch and figure, okay, where do we plug those in? So yes, we would keep that.
I thought it was 180,000.
We're not going to get, I don't even think we'll get to 165, but I just wanted to process. I want to set the ceiling really high.
All right, so
then
let's take each one individually.
Oh, Commissioner, and I just did find, I'm sorry, Commissioner, Mr. Chair, I did just find the utility information. This was back on, we had a meeting of the Committee of the Whole back on February 22nd. I knew I had the notes somewhere. The existing government center is roughly $300,000 a year for this building. Based on the cost, which also included the cost of the jail and some turn down heat, it was about, you're currently paying about $172 a square foot. That's what we were looking at. So, and then we estimated with the new building, there was a savings there. So we estimated actually option roughly $60,000 to $100,000 a year of potential energy savings is what we had on here.
So 60 to 100,000 a year.
Because that would be with Alan's number, because he said it's about 30% we'd be saving.
160,000? Oh, you take that time, so you're talking
That's
60 to 100,000.
60 to
60 to 100,000, so my number of $2 million over 30 years is right there. Yep, and that's on the low side.
At 60,000?
At 60,000 a year, yep. So, I mean, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendations. Do you want clarifications on the recommendations, Lee?
I think that would be good, or any other changes you would like to the language. And then I guess the question is, there was 2 items. Are we doing both items in this approval, or are we doing
I
them
think they
separate?
should be done individually,
Yeah.
the 2 separate items.
So the recommendations, I'm going to take a stab at this. You guys modify, you guys care?
Well, the only thing, in the minutes itself, after this is the second paragraph from the bottom. After considerable discussion, there was consensus. The consensus was to build a new building. I'm not sure consensus, because I totally disagree. Mark wasn't really on board. It's like, it was a majority of the board.
That's all it is a consensus, consensus is.
But no, consensus kind of alludes a little more to harmony.
If you wanted to say on a...
I didn't have any harmony with that decision.
I think, though, the clarification actually to that sentence is, the consensus was to move forward, to decide.
To look into more detail.
To get more information to assess whether we will or will not be building a new building.
Or to keep the progress going forward.
Right.
To keep the progress going forward in the direction towards...
Are you guys okay changing that to what Commissioner Hewsom just said then?
Yep, to move the project forward essentially.
Concession to move the project forward and to look into more detail.
Facility. And that's really what it was.
Right, and that's what it was. We didn't say we're going to build a new building,
we're keeping the process going forward, but which is pointing in that direction.
Yep.
We would proceed, just for clarity, we'd proceed at least with the schematic phase to put the building design together.
And that was the intent, that's the recommendations that I was...
So when we come back in a couple months, we have really more solidity to it.
Yep.
So the recommendation is to go forward to a schematic phase and...
And as Mr. Schwartzman said, we could pull, at any time, we could pull the plug and say,
What's the cost to doing the schematic phase?
So it's roughly about 20.
He did have it broke down in the quote they sent us, so.
I don't know,
You don't need to go through it, we already have that information.
So going forward, the recommendation is to move forward with the schematic phase, and I also want to add to the recommendation to look forward with the continued interest at a lease amount for these contracted space. If we're going to keep going to that cost, using the attorneys and Lee and to determine what a dollar amount is, if they're in or out, when we put real numbers on a piece of paper, if they want to go forward with it. Because if they're going to be out, I want to do it sooner than later.
So I'm trying to come up with language to summarize that.
But Bruce, you said what the process was on that.
So I think we'd meet and confirm interest with the various leasing entities and verify and confirm their interest. And then if the interest is truly there, then the county attorney would draft up some language for that agreement to be put in place. Right?
Does that make sense, Lee?
Yep.
I think we've got something.
So, what are we actually doing? Because I only have a motion, and it's really not a clear motion. I have no second yet, so.
The recommendation was brutal coming into this meeting.
We couldn't get a second because he was undone making his motion.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get clarity on what the recommendation is.
Well, what do you think the recommendation should be?
To move forward with the schematic phase and to move forward with the possible contracted entities to come up with the next phase of an agreement to whether to be into the scope of this project or not.
You're getting too deep. You just say
So
the
how
process
about
moving forward.
Yeah.
How about meet and confirm with leasing entities?
Keep moving the process forward.
Well, I have to have a little bit more detail than just keeping the process going forward, because that leaves it open-ended for staff then to it makes it hard for them to delineate how far are they supposed to go.
And we also want to make sure we have a milestone for when the schematic design would make sense, because that's really when you have a building a footprint, everything kind of finalized and confirmed budget again at that point, and you can bring back to the board.
Mr. Chair, Bruce, wouldn't that schematic design include these other entities?
Yes.
So
Yes,
that, I think that covers it.
Yeah, but I don't want to include them in the schematic design if they're not willing, if they don't want to spend the money. So we need to determine
right.
what we're going to charge them, how much they really need, and whether they sign the contract or not, they're not going to be part of the schematic
Right,
design.
and that's what would have to happen before they came up with the schematic plan.
Yep.
So,
So that's the reason I'm making it part of the recommendations.
And not to add it to the motion, but what we would do is work with the county to verify what they're currently paying for lease rates and understand all that data as we put that together.
Right.
Are we putting the cart before the horse, so we approve the minutes first, or?
That's the recommendation.
The minutes and the recommendations.
Okay, because if it's, even doing the schematic phase, that's going further down the road than, because I'm against it, and that's putting a lot of money in, so I'm gonna be voting against it is all, so.
Are you done with your motion?
I'm done with my motion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Would you repeat his motion, please?
Do you want to read it out?
Well, I've just written, move forward to the schematic phase, meet and confirm with the leasing entities to verify interest and explore cost of lease. Does that catch it? I've tried to make long sentences into short ones.
Yes, thank you. I'm not good at wording that.
Is it as clear as the crow?
Yeah, so clarification, Mr. Chair, and Derek, were you also moving approval of the minutes with that change in the second to the last paragraph about instead of build a new facility to move the project forward?
Correct.
Okay.
And you got that, Susan? Okay.
Okay.
Perform your magic.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Batch, second by Commissioner Potter. Is there any other discussions? I'm going to have, all right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1. The second item on this.
Come backside.
Oh, second, I forgot about that one. We had the budget kickoff following the committee of the whole at BKV, basically scheduling or setting out the process that we'll be going through for the budgets this year, having a kickoff meeting, date to be determined. The capital improvement plan process has been different than in years past. It was noted the CIP, a 5-year budget projection, and a summary of positions requests should be presented early on in the budget process, which most of the stuff is all informational. The dates, the budget process should take place somewhere between middle of August, August 20th to the September 1st.
Regarding that, have you heard back from everybody with your survey?
I have, and we're putting together that schedule.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. All right, you have a motion?
I have a motion to accept the minutes for the budget kickoff discussion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Betts, second by Commissioner Hewson. She's closer to me, so I heard it faster.
No problem.
Any other discussions, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Commissioner Potter, if you could keep this
Real fast.
next one real short, since we have a meeting at 11, we're a little late.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Committee of the Whole met on July 17th. Commissioners present along with Coordinator Kelly and others, President HR, Mr. Johnson, Coordinator, Assistant Coordinator Virgin, Kreiser Tagaro, and the meeting was about the county coordinator, county administrator, the new job for the county administrator. It was confirmed the consensus committee that intent of the county to move from a coordinator to an administrator structure January 1st of 2019. There was a draft of an employment agreement, and it's a 3-year term commencing January 1st, 2019, and the attorney stated language should be added in the contract addendum determination, which was added in a strike line that was just handed out this morning. This is also where look back and we can comment on this one as we go forward. You know, and it was noted in the event of a termination, the assistant county administrator would step until the administrator's position was filled. That's pretty normal. What they discussed wages impacts, a class and comp study. When it completed, it was a consensus to increase Coordinator Kelly's wages to the top of the current scale with a 2.5% general adjustment effective January 1st. Contract requires initial 6-month review. Time to competence class study should be complete by that time, and the board can revisit the wages for the administrator at that time. Question whether the range should be established. The crisis stated the wages should need to be on the chart. So yes, the range needs to be identified, which would be consistent with everything else. Also discuss the assistant administrator position. Wait until the class and comp study is done before making any adjustments to that wage, and then we'll go from there. Kreiser pointed out that the language in the proposed administrator's contract addressing severance that would be paid out if terminated with or without cause, and he did provide additional language that was requested by the board. Like I said, that was just handed out today, so we could get time to look forward to that. And this, the recommendation is revise the employment contract, prepare the job description for the assistant administrator position, send out both administrator and assistant. Job description to be pointed. Springtender will be alerted to the change made from the coordinator administrator. Being sent in a class comp study, schedule a committee of the whole meeting for October for the final review. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes and the recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Potter, second by Commissioner Houston. Any other discussions?
Mr. Chair, it says we will wait until the comp and class study to complete before making adjustment wages to the assistant coordinator position, but you are repointing it, so it would be adjusted January 1. It's not really.
That was something I did want to bring up, because as I took the minutes and the discussion that day that we would be making the switch assistant administrator 1/1 of 19.
Because you would get whatever points that the scale determines, so we wouldn't be reevaluating it when the comp and class study done, other than whatever uniformly.
I think the idea was the adjustment. If there is an adjustment when it's done after the first year, it would be adjusted at that time.
Yeah, but you'll also be adjusted at January 1.
January 1, but any other adjustments that need to be made.
With the new points.
Okay.
With the existing point system.
Yeah. So maybe that you want to maybe change that paragraph so that new points will be assigned January 1. It should be stated in there based on the new job description.
I'm fine with that change.
I'm fine with that. It's
good. All right. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. Coordinator Kelly.
Yes, sir. The item to schedule a committee of the whole to discuss our health and safety program. I know we have quite a few meetings scheduled here in the first part of August. I don't know if we want to piggyback off one. Otherwise, due to budgets, we may be looking at a date in September.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Kelly, how long of a meeting do you think this would be if we could piggyback?
I'm thinking definitely less than an hour. It's to review the safety program as it currently is. We've been doing quite a bit of work towards that endeavor. Quite a bit of findings and discussion that we wanted to share with the board.
Can it wait till September?
We could.
Are there some budget impacts regarding some of the?
We are putting some items in our budget for 2019 that are related to this, yes. So it would be best if we could, but it's not an absolute.
How about August 8th in the afternoon on committee day otherwise?
I believe that's viable.
Otherwise, I could do
the 9th. 21st after our meeting?
Budget time, so he's probably got that scheduled for budgets.
Maybe.
In the afternoon. I was thinking if you wanted to do the 9th on that Thursday, or the 15th, or the 8th.
I'd say the 8th, because he wasn't talking about budgets until the week of the 13th.
I can do the 8th in the afternoon if you want to do like a 1 o'clock after we're all done with all our committees.
Anybody else?
I can do that.
It'll be fine.
Sound good?
Works for me.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to schedule the committee of the whole on August 8th at 1 p.m. for the county's health and safety program.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hewsome, second by Commissioner Water. Is there any other discussions?
You heard.
I did.
Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimous. And in the interest of time, since we are running late, I do not think that we're going to have any time for
We'll hold them for next week.
advisory board information. Is there anything, Coordinator Kelly, that you think we need to be aware of at this point?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay, and a reminder that Commissioner Vetch will be board chair next week. I will not be around, so anything that you want to get past me, next week will be the time to do it. All right, we are adjourned at 11:18. Let us meet in 7.5 minutes.